He literally gave $4.99 masterclass of Claude Code away for free. I hope you really enjoyed like I have enjoyed.
Welcome, Akash. So I've been following you from quite a long, and you have already interviewed a lot of AI product managers, like which are top class in the entire world, like Marty Kagan. So I would like to learn from you what is your experience and what you have learned basically from all those interviewing all the top AI PMs.
Well, the rate of change of product management has been increasing. I've spent a decade plus in product, and since interviewing some of these top leaders, what I've noticed is that from when ChatGPT released in 2023 to 2024, there was a certain amount of change, let's say X. From 2024 to 2025, that might have been X plus 25%. And 2025 to 2026, it might have been times two. So it might have been
Yeah.
200% the amount of change. The amount of change that's happened in a year is mind blowing. And so, what PMs need is somebody to go try out all the new software, figure out what actually works. And that's what I've tried to do here and will do for you guys today is give you
Amazing.
the levels of progression of AI from prompting ChatGPT well to using Claude to using Claude Cowork to using Claude Code to building a PM operating system, a team operating system, and finally a company operating system.
That would be really insightful for our audience. So,
So let's break it down for you
yeah.
guys. Let's start at the very top with ChatGPT. How do you use it well? And what do most people do? Well, let's say I am writing a PRD. That might be a new and powerful way to use ChatGPT, right? I
Mhm.
think so. So I'm writing it for a new feature at Instagram, let's say. We just launched Instagram Plus, as some of you guys may know, for $3.99 per month. But it's mostly story and profile customization. And so I'm the PM on a new premium tier above it, let's say around $12.99 a month, aimed at creators and power users. So people who want deeper analytics, advanced audience tools, and AI creation features. So we probably need to drive subscription revenue without cannibalizing Plus or Meta Verified, which are two other paid programs.
Yeah.
So I've attached our PRD template and our subscription customer strategy document. This might be a pretty good prompt, honestly, of ChatGPT.
Mhm.
And if you're doing this, you're probably ahead of 20, 30% of PMs already. So this is a good step. You're giving it the right context, and beyond context, you are defining what you want your output to look like. That is okay, not bad. What is the next level up from here? The next level up would be using Claude. For my money, it is a much, much better writer,
Mhm.
and it has been ahead of ChatGPT for quite some time in terms of writing. So we'll take the exact same prompt, we'll add in these context documents that we have, and we'll set off and we'll compare how ChatGPT and how Claude do. This is the first level. And what you need to understand is that if your company is a Google company and you only have access to Gemini, or if your company is an open model company and you only have access to DeepSeek and GLM, you can still take the tactics that we're talking about here. So these prompting tactics, defining the context, defining the output, that still works. But if you are a leader who is making these kind of decisions, based on the interviews I've done, based on the leaders I've talked to, Claude is going to be by far and away the most powerful subscription you can take.
I've also seen that Google is also progressing a lot in this AI developer space, basically. So it is also helping create tools. And I have also tried Codex and also tried Cloud Code. But how can you confidently say that Cloud Code is the best tool in the market at the moment by Anthropic?
And this we're just looking at as Claude, by the way. So this isn't
Mhm.
even Claude Code
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
We're going to get to Claude Code. You should generally be using Claude Chat for like 5 to 10% of your queries, just simple queries, not queries like a PRD.
hmm
You should be using Claude Cowork for things like scheduled tasks, so a scheduled daily update of these are the meetings you have, here's the prep, here's the promise documents, for
Mhm.
instance, here's the Slack threads that you need to catch up on. For that, it's pretty powerful. And then you should be using Claude Code for all of your core work. So work like writing a PRD, building a strategy document, generating an AI prototype. Before, you might have used ChatGPT or Claude Chat like we're doing here, but it's going to be much more powerful in Claude Code. And how can I confidently say that? I talk to the best AI companies. I talk to OpenAI,
Yeah.
Anthropic. Recently, I had Jayona Zhang, the CPO at Laurel AI, which has raised over $100 million in its latest Series C. So it implies a valuation of well over $1 billion. I've talked with people at Fireworks AI and all of the other top AI companies, and all of them are consolidating into one tech stack, which is Claude Code. And within Claude Code, they're building operating systems and they're sharing skills. And that's because OpenAI's Codex team has generally been a month or two behind Claude Code's team. So
Mhm.
things like slash goal, skills, slash loop, sub agents, workflows, all of the features that Claude Code is shipping every single day,
Yeah.
Codex will add those a month or two later. And Fable 5 is the most powerful AI model if you look at all the benchmarks. So Anthropic has the most powerful bench model and it has the best harness. And that's why I can confidently say Claude Code is the best.
That's really insightful information. Yeah.
So let's go take a look. Actually, ChatGPT worked for 3 minutes. I'm pretty impressed. It drafted the complete PRD using our template.
Mhm.
So it's even created a file. And so we can go open this up and we can look at this in Microsoft Word, which if you happen to be a Microsoft Word company, brilliant. You can ask it via MCP to create a Google Doc or a Notion if you happen to be those. But let's go take a look at this Google document. So we can take a look and see that it's used our template brilliantly. That's one check. Then it's given us the overview, the problem, the business problem, the goals and success metrics. So we can take a look at these. Incremental subscription revenue, 0.8%. Okay. Target users, it's covered what we talked about. It's thought through the use cases and the jobs to be done. So overall, pretty nice. It's given us a baseline. What I would say is that this is like 70% of the way there. The
Mhm.
remaining 30% of human input is going to be really, really important to take this PRD to the next level.
Correct.
At the same time, we now have Claude completed, so we can go take a look at Claude. And if I'm honest, like from the get-go, you can see I prefer Claude because it's previewing the docx in the Claude window. This is this sort of simple quality of life thing where I feel like the Claude team just they use their product more. And as a result, it's a little bit more
Yeah.
convenient to use for work.
Right.
And so here we can see the document. All right. So it used the format well. Again, it's not maybe the exact same per page. So that might actually be ChatGPT did a better job of following the rules. But where it's deviated from the rules, I think it's become much more concise. Wouldn't you say? It's removed some of the things that weren't concise. And that's one of the big differences between Claude and everybody else, basically. OpenAI and Gemini, if we're honest, they're people pleasers. Claude has a point of view. And so it's more similar to a senior colleague versus a junior colleague. You know how your junior colleague can be a yes man, your
Yeah.
intern can be a yes man, but your senior engineer, he's like pushing back on what you're saying.
Right.
That is what Claude tends to replicate. And so that's why one of the reasons I prefer Claude as well. And you look at the goals and success metrics. So it's given subscription revenue materially above overall base attach. Plan at 0.5 to 1.5%. So ChatGPT threw out 0.8%. It's given 0.5 to 1.5. Tier positioning, requirements, entitlements, user experience. Okay, so it's obviously followed our structure, so that's good overall, with the exception of just creating this on a single page. So I would rate this PRD a little bit better, but again,
Mm.
it's still only like 71, 72% of the way there. The human touch is going to be really important in taking this PRD to the next level. So that's one way to use these chat tools, and that's going to help you. The next step up is going to be to use Claude Cowork. And in Claude Cowork, you can do these things like create specific projects. And so here we've created a project for me to become the Instagram PM chief of staff. So I'd say, hey, you're the chief of staff for me as an Instagram subscriptions PM monetization, right? So I've given it some information. Here you can add in these amazing scheduled tasks. So I previewed the daily briefing. What you do with the daily briefing is you create this context. So you'd give it access to your drive, you give it access to different folders, you give it access to certain links. You put all that information together. Then you switch out of Opus into Fable, which is a much more powerful model. For this, you don't even need much effort. I would even consider like a low effort, right? And then your chief of staff can help you. So it's giving you your daily briefing. You can hit it with a prompt like, it's 2 p.m. What's next? What meetings and work should I focus on? And I haven't completely connected it to give you guys what an
Yep.
example
Yep.
output would be, but this is the type of prompt you can hit it with. Another really interesting prompt might be, what Slack messages do I need to respond to? My meeting ended 15 minutes early, right? And so it's going to leverage a connection, and the connection is the most important part here. You want to enable these to have connections to your calendar, to your Slack, to your Jira or Linear, to even your code base via GitHub, to your analytics. Once you create those connections, then what you do is you go in and you finesse what your projects are in
Mm.
Claude Cowork. So the easiest way to show that is actually to shift over into Claude Code now. So let's go ahead and shift over into Claude Code for a second, because as I said, that's your final level. That's your ultimate boss.
Right.
So what I've done is I've opened up Cursor and I've created a PM operating system here. So what we can do is in Cursor, we can create these agents. So I had this one agent. This is where I actually created the demo. So I can put that in there. You can see it worked for 6 minutes. So I had that create demo agent. Now I can have like the demo agent get started. So I'll hit
Mm.
Claude and what some of the tricks here. So I have this auto mode on. This is really important. If you used Claude Code in the past, it often asked you for permissions, which was really frustrating. Auto mode is going to run a simple model to decide if it really needs to ask you permissions. And for most things, it's going to make a smart decision on its own. The second thing I have in here is this context window. So you can choose the model. Generally, like Fable is going to be a really, really powerful model. You can also set the effort. So Fable doesn't need usually very high effort. So we can hit it with low effort. And then I've created this context status line. You can just say create a context status line. So that's what you're seeing here with my Claude Code setup. So what I came into Claude Code to show you is what a advanced setup might look like in terms of a Cowork setup. So in Cowork, there's not just projects. Cowork can sit on top of your repositories. And so that's what you guys are seeing here is a repository on the right side. What does that have? It's going to have Claude skill files. So what does a skill file look like? A skill file is a reusable workflow that you have as a PM. So maybe you're a PM on activation. You can define activation analysis
Mm.
of exactly how you want your activation to go. And you can see that these skills can actually be pretty long and they can define a lot of things. So you can see I have so many different types of skills that we can create. So that's one step. On top of that, you can add in custom agents. You can add in your context library. And this is the most important thing. So you can see here, you can add in PRDs, you can add in decisions. So here's an example decision file that we've created. The Instagram plus pricing and why the decision was made, what the context was, what were the alternatives concerned, what we learned, what the follow-on decision was needed. So you can add in all of that really, really important context library. You can create sub-agents to simulate your designer, your engineer. And then what you can do is you can upload these to GitHub. So you can say, add this to GitHub as a repo. And now you're going to get version control on your skills and everything that you've created because you're adding it into GitHub. On top of that, you are going to be able to access this GitHub repo in Claude Cowork. So you don't necessarily then need to be in this scary terminal interface.
Mhm.
And so let me go ahead and show you now how to do this inside of Claude Cowork. Cowork is the friendly skin of Claude Code, and here you can click work in a PM folder. And so that GitHub folder hasn't uploaded yet. You can see the Instagram PM chief of staff that we talked about has,
Yep.
but that GitHub folder hasn't. So we can just go find it. It looks like it's called it PMOS, which is the wrong name. So I'm going to go back into here and I'm going to say wrong name, name it Instagram PMOS. So we'll go ahead and name it. And that's the coolest thing about Claude
Yep.
Code. You see, I'm just talking to it. I'm not learning the GitHub commands. Back in the day, I'd have to look up, oh, how do I change the name of a repo?
Right.
It's going to go do all of that in the background for me. So now I've got this Instagram PM OS GitHub updated. So now I can return back into Cowork. In Cowork, actually, Command R just works just like a browser. And so now if I type in Instagram PMOS, I should see it in here.
It might take few seconds to sync up.
No worries. We can just create it. We can just link it this way.
Mhm.
So if you have any issues with that, you can always override it. So what did I do? I gave it access to the local repo. No problem. And so now I can say, hey, we can hit it with the exact same prompt actually. So if you guys recall, we wrote that PRD, right? Hey, I'm writing a PRD. Now, what I don't need to do now is I don't need to attach anything
Will
to it.
automatically.
It's going to automatically use all of the instructions from my Claude MD. So you remember before we had those rudimentary instructions. With the
Yep.
PMOS that's in GitHub, I can keep iterating and save these more detailed instructions, these more powerful instructions. It doesn't even need to have this context because it's getting all of that context from my folder. So now I have this using my operating system. And while it is doing that, let's return back to Claude and just learn a little bit more about what is happening inside this operating system. And here's the coolest thing. I can just ask it. So we're going to run up Claude. Explain to me this operating system, what's in it, and why it's better than Claude Chat. You can ask it a cool prompt like this, and it will go ahead and start to think and respond to us. How would I answer it? Let's go see. You have access to skills, you have access to all your context, you have access to subagents and templates, and you have access to the way you want to work, all explained. So that's what I would say. Let's see what Claude says. PMOS is a file-based workspace that turns it into a persistent PM Copilot. You get the context library, like I said, the skills, the subagents, like I said, the outputs and the templates. So there you go. Why it beats Claude Chat? This is a really important point. Persistent memory. The real files, not copy paste, the tool access, and the self-improving nature. So these are the things that make an PM operating system so powerful. And so now let's go return back and see how Clowork is doing. So this is interesting, right? Before it didn't ask any questions, it just ran off. One of the
Yeah.
things I
Yeah.
said that's really cool about Claude, and now you can see the power in Cowork and code, is it's going to think like a real senior person and say, oh, what plan are you even at? I'm going to say,
Right.
okay, I'm at planning review. What is the primary success metric? Incremental sub revenue. How is the rollout planned? We're at meta A/B test. What is the pillar? This is interesting. Probably all three at launch. So now we've given it a little bit more context. Remember how I said those prior PRDs were at like 72% completion?
Mm.
This is how we take it the step further, where it might be at 80%, 90% completion. And so that is really the next layer forward, which is we are creating an AI that is a senior PM. So it's
Correct.
like instead of before you were managing an APM, now I'm managing a senior PM.
Yeah.
And this is
Right.
where the skill of management starts to come in. Every PM becomes a manager of agents. If you've heard someone say that, now you can see it in action here. And so you can see it's gone ahead and ran some commands. Let's go ahead and take a look. It looked through our context library. It figured out launches that we've had in the past, features, reception, what matters, problem statement. Look at all this interesting stuff it looked at. It went further into our subscription customer strategy and read that. After finding the right context so quickly, right?
Yeah.
It basically found the last result, it found our PRD template, and it found our strategy. It's going to go ahead and create our strategy review. And like we saw before, it's going to present it inline, which is so nice for us.
Yeah.
So we get the pro, and look at this. This PRD is so much shorter and better than the other ones.
Great. Yeah.
From the beginning, a hypothesis, supporting evidence, strategic fit. Let's go look at the metrics, right? We looked at the metrics for the other two. Incremental subscription revenue at all with a baseline. This is perfect. Work with finance and tie to KR 2.1. So this is like a 88% done PRD. You just need 12% of final human input and you're ready to go.
Right.
So now you guys see the power of a PM operating system. There is yet another layer to go. So let's go look at the next layer.
Mhm.
Even more powerful than a PM operating system. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into Cowork. Again, what is Cowork? It's our friendly skin on top of our Claude Code setup. And so what I'm doing in the background here is I'm going to go find my team operating system and show you what is the difference between a PM operating system and a team operating system. So now what I want to do is I want to introduce you to the Claude Code app skin of Claude Code. So earlier I showed you cursor in Claude Code, and it's very powerful and it's strong. But what people end up using these days is actually Claude Code. And so let's go take a look at what Claude Code inside the Claude Code app looks like. So here you have it. You can go into here and you can set up your Claude default environment. So now I have access to all of my Claude GitHub. And so I have this thing called the Product Growth Team OS. And so now I can ask it the same question. Of course, we don't want to use Opus anymore. We want to use
Yeah.
Fable and we want to use it on low effort. Explain the Team OS and its benefits over a PM OS. And so now it's going to get to work. And here you can see already the limitations of and the benefits of Claude Code in the Claude app. So the limitation is that there is no way for me to just quickly go into here and look at what exactly are the files. I'd have to go into like edit environment. There's all these different steps for me to look at everything. Let me show you inside of GitHub what that looks like. So here we are inside of GitHub, and you can actually see everything that's going on in the Team OS. So here in the Team OS, it has these nested Claude MD files where you put things like team learnings,
Mm.
and then you create product development folders for each team, product, engineering, data engineering, analytics. And so what happens with this setup is that you will end up your whole product team, not just your single PM getting leverage. And what will end up happening with the team OS is that you will be able to multiply your impact as a PM. All of the sudden, everything you had in your individual PM OS, your whole team can query. So your engineering partner can ask, how did that last feature do? Your analytics person can define the skill for how to analyze a feature. So all of the sudden, your engineer is getting an analytics quality analysis of the last feature without ever talking to the PM.
Right.
This is the true wow moment you should be having. It is a navigation layer. You get summaries and raw develop results. A PMOS, it's all just for you. A TeamOS turns that into multiplayer infrastructure. And so you really get the next level. And then beyond the TeamOS, there is one more level of AI efficiency and fluency that you want to go to,
Mhm.
which is a company OS. So let's talk about this final level for everyone who's been watching, and good on you for watching till this point. Once you create a team OS, you want to create a company operating system that has every single team, customer success, data science, engineering, design, finance, all put together.
Yeah.
And what you do is you start with an ontology. You define, like we did for PM, these are the 47 skills. This is the output. These are the templates. Then you build those files and then you deliver it in flow. So people can access these agent bots in Slack. They don't even have to use Claude Code or Claude Web or Claude Chat. They just tag that agent inside of Slack.
Yeah.
So that is the ultimate pyramid. We have walked you through in less than 30 minutes how to go from regular Chat GPT user to way more powerful company OS driver. And that's what I've learned. You asked me what I learned over 150 AI PMs. That is, I think, kind of the architecture around those 150 episodes that I've learned.
Amazing, amazing. I think that's really helpful session. What I can see is that how you have changed one APM intern to a superpower, super senior PM who can actually handle everything on its own. Because what I can see right now in the market, what is happening, every product manager is creating PRTs, but they don't know this much of detail that you have shared. So I think that's really amazing, and very much I can say we have dig deeper into it how any product manager who is basically wanted to go into the APM side and how they can best utilize cloud code and these AI tools. I can say simply like what is the best way to use them. I think that's really really helpful.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and this was fun.
I hope you loved the video. So if you're new to my channel, click on the subscribe button. A lot of informative content is coming on.